Now, as we mentioned in the last episode, one of the most popular game genres out there right now, especially with the PC crowd, are MOBAs, or multiplayer online battle arenas. We wanted to talk about their rise in popularity and give insight into why these games are becoming the massive titles we see today. In order to do that, we have to start at the beginning. Ian and Mike start us on our first lesson into the world of MOBAs.
Hello GameCode fans, and welcome to the first episode of MOBA-nomics 101, where we educate you in the world of MOBA games. As this is the first episode in the series, what we're aiming to do is give you some of the history of the genre, and to give you a solid foundation on the basics of the genre before we start talking about how any of the games actually work. The word MOBA stands for Multiplayer Online Battle Arena, a name which was given to these games as they play very differently from the real-time strategy or RTS titles from which they originated, think StarCraft and Warcraft. These games were first conceived as custom maps, the very first one being Aeon of Strife in StarCraft and Dota All-Stars in Warcraft. While these first iterations of MOBA were limited by the original engines they were made on, the format has remained largely unchanged. In a typical MOBA game, you are presented with a map that looks somewhat like this. As you can see, the map has two bases, where waves of AI-controlled creeps or minions spawn, as well as three lanes, by which these creeps get from one base to another and engage in combat as soon as they come across the opposing wave. In simple terms, this might be best described as a giant tug-of-war. These lanes also contain static defense elements, turrets or towers, which slow the progress of the creeps down. The game was won by destroying the main structure in the enemy base, called the Ancient or Nexus. Now, of course, this game wouldn't be any fun watching some AI-controlled creeps smash each other around to figure out which side wins. What you do as a player in these games is control a hero or champion that fights against these creeps, and your basic task is to help push back the enemy waves to get to the enemy's base. Each MOBA game has its own set of heroes or champions with unique abilities that help your team complete its objective. These heroes that you pick at the beginning of every match level throughout the game by killing these creeps that I already mentioned, or the opposing players. As your hero levels, you gain access to more powerful skills and abilities. You also gain gold or some other form of currency for better items for your hero or champion. I will go into more details about this in the future episodes. Most MOBA games approach the hero character in the same way, in that you are given 3 skills and an ultimate ability. Your hero skills are either passive, meaning they happen all the time, such as an aura that helps gain additional attack speed, or active, meaning that you will need to press a certain button to perform whatever the action is, for example a fireball that deals damage and stuns a target. The ultimate abilities typically have the longest cooldown and are the most sought after and can really throw a battle one way or another if used correctly. Alright, so we have a plan of getting to the enemy's base, we know we have a unique hero that has abilities to consider and items to purchase, so it seems like we're ready to go, and that's exactly where we meet the hardest part of any MOBA game. This is a team game, and typically the game is played 5-on-5, with different heroes occupying different areas of the map and moving about to help secure kills, defend your lanes and base, and advance into the enemy's territory. This is where the complexity of a MOBA comes in, and if you've never seen it before, it can be pretty damn intimidating, regardless of your MOBA of choice. Thankfully, not all of MOBA is super hard and challenging. There are some things that make the game a little easier to start off and understand. Mainly, the heroes really exist as types, and while each individual hero is fairly distinct from one another, they usually boil down into a handful of categories. One of the ways that makes approaching the game a little easier is not to think about the hero so much, but rather what role you're playing. One of the more beginner-friendly roles is that of a support. A support hero's role is primarily just that, helping your team excel at their roles. Usually it involves buying support items such as wards to provide vision to the team, or items of effect, for example healing items. This type of heroes is not as money dependent as others, and if your support performs poorly in a game, it is typically less noticeable than any other role when you're first starting out. Similarly, tanks are heroes which are meant to be exactly that, tanks. They strive for items that make themselves more resilient and typically are tasked with leading the team into a fight to soak up all that damage from the enemy team. These heroes are also a little easier than most, as they usually have pretty good survivability, a key factor in any MOBA game. Some heroes specialize in picking off other heroes. When you roam the map to look for poorly guarded heroes, this is referred to as a gank, and gankers are heroes that specialize in this. These heroes typically have abilities that make it easy for them to sneak up on a hero, or they deal high amounts of damage very quickly. Gankers are key in early to mid game, but aren't always essential later on. The role of a carry hero is built for the late or end game. Typically a carry is the most difficult to play, as they require a lot of work and skill in the early game to get themselves into a position where they can win. These heroes typically have abilities that scale as they level, making them more and more powerful by late game. It is a carry's role to help bring the team to victory and is probably the least friendly to a new MOBA player. However, this role can be one of the most satisfying to play. Now this is painting in very broad strokes, however the aim here is to give you an idea of what you're in for. With this info out of the way, we are now able to speak to you about some of the specifics of each MOBA game that we will cover. Join us next week as we take a starting look at the big three: League of Legends, Dota 2, and Heroes in Your Earth. In addition, we're going to be joined by Blake Seymour, Vice President of Dalhousie Esports Society, who will share with us his knowledge and expertise in the MOBA genre. Until next time, class dismissed.
Coming up, Mike takes to the skies in Irrational Games' latest offering, BioShock Infinite.